Welcome to 7 Key Lessons from 3 Decades, Unpacking Data Misalignment in Education. We're going to explore a critical issue in education, the misalignment of services from the onset of the No Child Left Behind Act to the present day. The misalignment actually began before that, we just didn't know it because we didn't have the data. Before we dive in, I'd like you to ask yourself to self-assess. On a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is little to no understanding or ability to detail, and 5 is very strong understanding and ability to detail, how would you rate your understanding of service alignment in education, particularly in terms of using data to align educational resources with student needs? The journey begins with the No Child Left Behind Act, which mandated the use of academic data for educational decisions. Years later, the confusion and the misuse of data persists. Despite the evolution of data-driven education, key challenges have remained. Let's take a look at some of these observations which underscore the need for correct data usage in educational settings. Often, right after No Child Left Behind, and still today, educators will tell us that the program we are about to evaluate is serving low-achieving students. Then we get the data and we establish the pre-scores, and we find that the program is serving primarily high-achieving, low-income, and minority students. And it's not just with the programs that we evaluate. We've seen school systems evaluating their own programs, getting these same results, and it confuses them, and they don't know what to do, so they just write the report and keep on going. Dropout prevention programs are another case in point. EdStar Analytics has evaluated dropout prevention programs in more than 80 high schools. School counselors often identified at-risk students based on demographic data to refer to the programs, and this led to services being provided to students who didn't match the target population description. In some cases, up to 85% of the students in these programs did not meet the criteria. The programs were serving high-achieving students who had never been suspended, didn't have absentee problems. And we see a real domino effect because EdStar Analytics is, over the decades, we'll be working with more than one program and maybe with the school counselors, the dropout prevention programs, school improvement teams, and we can see how these things are all interrelated. And for example, one of the things that we would see would be these top scoring minority and low-income students being placed in standard or remedial math courses, and then they're assumed to be at risk, and they're recommended for dropout prevention programs because of that, in addition to their demographics, because the counselors can see, well, they're tracked low or they're in standard courses, and they've got the demographics, so I'll recommend them for the dropout prevention programs. And then there's low expectations, and we actually have seen that some of these programs are push-out programs, that these high-achieving students drop out once they're in these programs. And we've compared them to control groups, and it's a significant push-out effect. In response to these systemic issues, we started our data academies. These initiatives armed educators with the know-how to interpret and apply academic data for improved service provision. We came to realize that there is a relationship between personal belief systems, instructional practices, and school system policies, and that we can't just teach people how to use data because these are so interrelated. So we modified over time our data academies to address personal belief system, examine school system policies by looking at trends in the data, and teaching data using skills. What we did in our data academies is we would teach educators to differentiate between different types of data, and we gave them icons to make it easier to understand. We used apples for mutable, intervention-sensitive data, oranges for immutable characteristics, and mangoes for policy-related data. For example, if there's a policy that only gifted students can take some advanced math course, then students who weren't identified as gifted will not be in that math class. And it's because of a policy. It isn't something you can change simply by raising the achievement of the kids who aren't in there. And this understanding was crucial for writing SMART objectives, because you can't write a SMART objective around the immutable things because you're not going to change those things. Our data academies have borne fruit. We've successfully identified high-performing students who were overlooked for advanced courses due to demographic biases and cultural beliefs, but the journey doesn't stop here. Resistance to change and ingrained systems hamper progress, yet we remain committed to fostering more equitable academic environments through data-informed decision-making. Some people argue that if data is used, that it will be a barrier to access for low-income and minority students, but the absolute opposite is true. Without data, they don't have access. And the data that we have seen, we see whole school systems, whole states worth of data. There are so many high-achieving, overlooked students simply when data is not being used to make decisions about who should have access. And there are also students who need help who aren't getting help because they don't fit the profile of a student who might need academic help. So in summary, better understanding and use of data is key to aligning services to students' actual needs, enhancing educational outcomes, and promoting equity in our education systems. So I hope that this presentation has shed some light on the vital importance of proper data use in education. Let's continue this vital conversation. So the name of this was the 7 Key Lessons from 3 Decades, Unpacking Data Misalignment in Education. You can pause the video and read the 7 key points here.